Sidequest Cinema.
Honey, sometimes when you go to sleep, you talk about a place.
I don't remember.
Can you tell me the best way to get to Silent Hill? Why you want to go there?
On April 21st, mother looking for answers will discover a truth
Hey! Where's my child? Only the demon knows where she is.
too terrifying to believe.
What's happening? Who are you?
I am
The Reaper, Silent Hill.
Hey guys, welcome to the Podtendo's Sidequest Cinema, where we watch movies on a video game podcast for some reason, although this one it kind of makes sense because technically we're talking about a video game movie, so it's kind of makes sense that maybe a video game podcast would talk about this movie thematically. We did it. We finally got there. And it's scary that we're actually on track for this Halloween spooky scary month. I'm your co-host, Mick, and I'm joined every episode by my lovely and talented co-host,
Tyson.
Cool. Sweet. We got here.
Yeah, it's good month to be in. It's spooky scary month, best month. Hopefully you're watching all your Halloween specials and working your way through stuff. So I don't know if you're like binging. I don't know, what are you binging this year? What are you doing? Some like Are You Afraid of the Dark, some Goosebumps?
Oh, maybe. I kind of fell into like an Are You Afraid of the Dark podcast. So I have been watching actually a lot of Are You Afraid of the Dark. That is definitely on the docket. Other than that, what have I been watching? I think we're going to do the Pearl X Maxine series. We're watching that one. Maybe some more like slasher films. Yeah.
Nice.
You?
I think I might go back to do some 90s movies.
Nice.
Some 90s slasher movies, like watch some Scream, some No He Did Last Summer. And the parodies.
Yeah.
There,
okay.
Because I feel like there's a couple parodies in this one, and there's one in particular I'm trying to find. I think it's like Shriek.
Oh yeah. Shriek if you knew what I did last Halloween or something.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Some terrible thing like that. I'm like, I'm gonna watch this. It's
Awesome.
It's gonna be terrible.
Sick. Okay. Cool. So with that. It's Halloween, guys. What are we doing this year? We are diving into the franchise that I kind of know nothing about up until when I started doing research for these specific podcasts, Silent Hill. It's a video game franchise that is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. They love it. They like the psychological abuse that you take from playing these games, and now it just leaves you a little bit jaded and feeling kind of dirty on the other side. But that's apparently what people are going for. So we dove into this one, and instead of playing like 3 Silent Hill games this month, we're just probably going to watch the 2 movies, play the first game for like Halloween. Sounds like a solid little plan.
Yeah. I mean, we'll play this one. They're coming out with the remake, Silent Hill 2.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
We will see how that is done. Maybe that's something we tackle in another year. But.
Sure, that's definitely something. Like, I wonder if the reason they don't do the first one is because it is just so iconic. It almost kind of needs. Well, we'll get into it. But like as you're playing it, you're like, I kind of get how this is like kind of scary and a different take on like Resident Evil, right? I always assumed they were kind of more similar and different, but no, they're definitely their own kind of little entity. So I'm excited to kind of keep diving through that, going through this with you this month. But I guess I'm not an expert on the game yet because technically we haven't played the game for another like half a month or whatever it's going to be before we kind of get to it. So all we're going to do is talk about the movie today. So we'll go into it with kind of the guys of maybe we've like played the game for an hour or two, watched this movie. And that's the review you're getting today. So Silent Hill. Oh baby, can't wait. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know. It's all very fuzzy. I don't even know when this movie came out.
Oh, I see.
How much it was costed and who directed these
So
things.
Tyson doesn't want to banter anymore at the top of the show. He just wants to roll through this. We'll oblige. So, Silent Hill was released April 1st in Canada and April 26th in France in the year of 2006. I don't know why those distinctions were made. Oh, wait. Now I kind of do. But, yeah. Cool. Runtime of this movie was 126 minutes. The budget was $50 million. The box office saw a $100.6 billion return. That's amazing. Directed by... Okay, I'm glad Tyson laughs at that. It's a million, but I wrote billion because I was like, let's see if we get a reaction. It was directed by Christopher Gans. He's a Frenchman, so hence the France part. Produced by Samuel Hadidida and Don Carmody. The cast includes Radha Mitchell, Sean Bean, Laurie Holden, Deborah Kara Unger, and Kimmy Coates.
Yeah, yep. Pretty ladies heavy cast. And Sean Bean. You know what? That's would explain why this movie made $100 billion.
It's Sean Bean's in it. Does he die? No, what?
Is this the only movie he doesn't die in? Like, is this the one that we can point to? Like, see, he didn't die.
I don't know enough of which one. There must be another one, obviously, but like, I mean, off the top of my head, I guess. I mean, he didn't need to be in it, so I don't know if that was really fair.
Yeah, and it's almost like he's.
And you'd have to reestablish the question. No.
With just like.
But you'd have to reestablish the question because you'd have to say his character is dead, right? Or is like dead in the series, dies in the series, or is dead. Because you said just dies. Technically, he's in Return of the King, but he doesn't die in that movie. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I was thinking, what franchise does he die in? But we haven't seen the second one yet, so maybe he dies in that one.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, Well, that's something to look forward to in a couple weeks, I guess, when we get to the next movie. Before we get there, though, we're going to talk about, I guess, development details. We do the Wayback Machine afterwards. Yeah, okay, because sometimes I don't listen to the Wayback Machines. Okay, perfect, great, awesome. Development details for Silent Hill. I pulled 10 pages of notes from Wikipedia and edited them, guys. 10 pages, like other films. Like maybe 4, maybe 5 at the max. But like that's like Lord of the Rings. This one had 10 pages. 10 pages.
It's almost like the Silent Hill franchise or like fan bases.
Oh, they just love writing and like blowing this project. So let's get through it. So I pull. Gans first mentioned he wanted to create a film adaptation of Silent Hill in 1999. He wanted to focus on the second game since it was much more emotional. The second game doesn't mention the city very much. This made it hard to not mention the origins of the city in the movie script. For 5 years, he sent constant messages and film ideas to the game's shareholders to try and obtain the rights to make the movie. Damn it. Gans never directed a film adaptation, but wanted to focus on bringing the background story in the game to the foreground. A rough draft of the work was ready October 4th. It was rejected due to the lack of male cast characters. They included a bunch of scenes with Sean Bean, and the work was approved. So kind of, it looked like the director of this actually cared about the actual franchise and wanted to turn it into cinema because he thought it was a very cool representation. I think that shows when you're watching this movie, for sure, right? It definitely shows that, like, yeah, it looks and kind of sounds like Silent Hill, and they're doing things like Silent Hill, or it's not like blatantly being like, no, we don't do that because this is a serious movie. The Mario Brothers can't wear red and green clothes. That'd be stupid.
Yes. It's also, I think, when a movie gets made by the fan, there's a lot of attention to detail, and there's a ton of attention to detail in this game, in this movie.
We're both going to do that the whole time, so great, awesome.
Yeah, it's I think it's really well handled, and I think that, like, there's a couple weaker spots of this, but for the most part, visually, you get a really good time if you are a Silent Hill fan.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's definitely reoccurring. If you're a fan of this series and you played a bit of the game, watched some retrospectives, maybe this movie's pretty good. But if you don't do that, the town was based on Centralia, Pennsylvania, a town built on a coal mine that caught fire and is still on fire to this very day. They wanted an Alice in Wonderland meets Dante's Inferno feeling. They thought about the sets in the past, in the current reality, the misty parts as purgatory and the scary parts as hell. The writer and director took themselves really seriously. You could go to Wikipedia if you'd like and read about how much deep and psychological elements they added to this movie, because they're not full of themselves. The six pyramid heads were meant to kill the cultists at the end of the film, but it was replaced with the barbed wire for time and budget reasons, apparently in reference to the end of Dante's Inferno. Harry Mason from the game was changed to Rose because of the bond between mother and daughter seemed more convincing to the filmmakers. The film time is 127 minutes, but there is a potential director's cut that is 3.5 hours long.
Dear goodness.
Apparently there was a lot more scenes of her just like wandering around like you do in the game and like solving little puzzles and stuff, but they obviously had to edit it out. And I was like, I mean, guess
if you're gonna do that, you just call it a mini series.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I guess.
And throw some Tim Curry in there. Boom, I'm in.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 3 hours. Okay, that's probably a good call. Any of those points you're like, coal mine, coal mine city, that do anything for you?
It's very cool. I remember when this movie came out, people were like, "Oh man, that's like Silent Hill." It's like, no, it's a completely different place. Obviously, the fictional universe that happened a long ass time ago. Like, my goodness.
Yeah.
But I remember people in high school being like, we should go there one time." Like, no.
Okay,
Dumb.
cool.
Don't think these things.
Yeah, I mean, I did when I first heard about it. I was like, that's cool. If I'm ever in that area, I should go check it out. It's only like 60 miles east of Philly. Okay. The director called the U.S. release pitiful, as obviously it wasn't his 3.5 hour long master cut. The film is filmed on Super 35, except for the dark scenes that used a super high definition camera. Gans brought a big screen and a PS2 to the set and to show the filming crew how the camera moved in the game, and asked them to try to recreate how unsettling the movements were.
You know what? I think
Is that a first? That like somebody in charge of a movie like brought like a video game on and was like, "This is what I want you guys to do."
See, video game, try to do this, and you're like, well, that's at least
no,
that is an honest attempt.
They did that in Resident Evil 2 with Jill's character, right? They remember they showed her like, "Hey, this is your character's backstory," and they just like watched her walk around hallways.
Maybe, yeah, and I think that RE2 came out
before this. Yeah, definitely before this, because it was like 2000 or something. 2004, yeah.
So 2 years before this, yeah. No,
well,
you're right.
I guess it wasn't done. I guess it probably was done before this, though. I would think like or Weinstein probably brought like Leisure Suit Larry to a lot of suits or a lot of sets and was like, "See, I want to do that to you."
Oh, I feel bad for laughing about this joke. That's a good joke.
All right, yes, I did it. No, we have to move on now. If you make a joke, you just move on. Okay, that ends everything about the development details. That's fun. Tyson, you have any first memories of this movie?
Yeah, I remember this came out. Everybody was like really big into it because, of course, we were into every horror movie. At the time.
Oh yeah, I could see that. And you're in high school, and like you're playing video games, and like you're not that far removed from like being able to play Silent Hill or potentially like one of the sequels on like the Xbox. Okay.
Yeah. So it was always one of those things where people like I remember my girlfriend at the time was also like super big into this movie and was like, "Well, I want to watch that movie again." It's like, why do you really like this movie so much? Like, don't you want to just like play the game? It's like, no, the movie's like someone like it's awesome. Like, okay, let's watch this again. So I've seen this movie a lot.
Okay.
And then I just like didn't watch it for like I've seen obviously this in the first or the second a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely not a movie I've circled back to since then because it probably was like really overwatched in the circulation.
Interesting. Yeah, for myself, I knew that this movie was coming out, but was still more of like, I think I was because of a Resident Evil fanboy. I was like, oh, I don't really like Silent Hill. I haven't played the games. That's not my jam. But only the second movie was out. I just didn't go and see it for whatever reason. I was just like, no, I'm good. I think movies that came out after this, I saw. So it was like I was going to the movies just for some reason. Silent Hill didn't stand out to me for whatever reason. I guess I was maybe the demographic, that 19-year-old male that I was. And they're like, psh, you never pay money to watch video games. Wasted. I saw it once on a movie channel. Or I was in the room and someone else was watching it because I was like, I don't really know what happens. And a few years ago, I think we watched these movies, but I definitely think we might have just watched the second one because I couldn't tell you anything about the first one. Like, and if I did, I didn't understand it. It was one of those. I like half paid attention and was like looking at my phone, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on in this movie. I can't follow. I don't know what's from the game. I'm confused. I don't like it.
I have a suggestion for you, but we'll get into that for a little later.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So that's just like now. I've started playing the game. I've again watched some retrospectives. I started doing research for the podcast we're actually doing on the Silent Hill game. I've looked at the other games in the series. I kind of know about the timelines. So that I watch this movie and I'm like, oh, I get what they're doing. Oh yeah, I appreciate that. Oh, okay, neat. Oh, okay, that's there. Now again, part of it is like, parts are confusing and they seem to jump around and they just show like Lisa the nurse for like 1 second and I'm like, I feel like you were supposed to be a bigger character. The fact they like dressed you up and made you look like you did in a video game and then you're just there for a second seems kind of rushed or weirdly edited. But all in all, I was like, pretty good video game adaptation. Kind of looks like Silent Hill, sounds like Silent Hill, sure.
Yeah, and I mean, for the most part, it's I think it's solid. Visually, I would say story-wise and pacing-wise, it's could be improved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could be improved.
Cool. All right. From there, what are we doing? We're doing terrible plot summary. All right. So you guys are coming in and you're like, well, you know what? I haven't played the game and I haven't watched the retrospects. I didn't even watch the movie. I'm just listening to you guys talk about it. And I'm like, why? Oh, because you do a terrible plot summary. And I'm like, oh, you feel real reassured? You're comfortable with what I'm doing and like there's no gripes. You don't know what we're talking about? No, of course not. That's why I'm here. All right. Well, glad we had that conversation before I start Podtendo's terrible plot summary. Our protagonist has a daughter that sleepwalks and says, Silent Hill! To cure her, she takes her daughter to the ghost town, spooks a cop, crashes her car, and replays the opening of the game on the big screen. After awakening, she finds a phone, runs into the cop again, and is handcuffed before escaping to the school. There she sees flashes of a bullied little girl, ends up in a nightmare school with the cop until they escape Pyramid Head. Back in the normal, scary town, they meet a little girl, find out about a hotel, and escape from the nightmare realm before Pyramid Head pulls a girl apart. The two girls team up with the cult people in a church and explore the hospital where she meets the OG psychic witch girl and absorbs her. Returning to the church where the girl kills everyone with barbed wire before the main character returns home with the little girl, but there are ghosts.
Spooky.
So that's kind of it. I mean, I probably could have like given characters names, but I didn't take the time to remember their names because it's not Cheryl, it's like Sharon. And I'm like, no, but it's Cheryl in the game. Like, no, it's Sharon. I'm like,
yeah, what the heck are their names?
and it's Alessa. I think Alessa is like the little dark, evil Alessa girl. But then there's like Alessa, the burnt girl. And then there's the little girl whose
So
name's
there's Rose.
Cheryl or Sharon.
Sybil.
That's the cop.
Yep. Alessa. Anna's the one chick that gets ripped in half.
And Sharon.
Sharon.
See?
Christabella, of course.
Christabella, yeah. And Dahlia. That's the old lady.
Yeah.
So that was the plot of the movie. Any questions? No, of course not. I was very clear, obviously. Review. What is your favorite part of this movie now that we're into the deep and dirty of it? Tyson, what's your favorite part?
Visually, I love the visuals. I think it looks great. I was very praised earlier this year. I praised Fallout for when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, it looks like exactly like the video games. It's really nice that somebody put that level of detail in. Silent Hill did it first, so this one does a much better job. Like, I guess a big issue with the first Resident Evil movie is because it feels like Resident Evil, and then all of a sudden they're just an underground hodgepodge thing.
And
This
they have
straight
that
up feels
generic metal rock going, and you're like, why does this feel like Ghosts of Mars?
Yeah. And then in this, it feels like it does the whole transition between the limbo and hell part so well. It's so cool. I love it. It's really well done. Visually, it's always interesting. The creature design is the CGI is a little bit meh, but I think that they did a pretty good job with it.
Oh, seamlessly. They took the feeling and the sets and the atmosphere and the environments of the game and brought them into the big screen, and they're just as terrifying and kind of thrilling and right, like the chill you get of walking around in the mist, and the game is recaptured as they're walking around in the streets and exploring kind of the quiet, desolate world, right, where these men are dressed in these suits with canaries, right? Everything's kind of a little spooky, and then they go to hell, and you're like, oh, this is terrifying. And just the monsters that they display, and kind of the feeling of just panic that you have, similar to the game, right? As soon as you end up in the nightmare hospital or something, you're like, oh, I hate this. I don't like it. I'm scared. Why? And it's done expertly, right? You can tell that this guy loved the series, got the vision, understood what they were doing, Team Silent was doing when they made the game, and basically put it on the big screen. It's awesome.
Yeah, can't complain. think they did a really solid job with it. And well, visually, story. My goodness, the pacing of this movie. But maybe I'll save that for my next point.
Yeah, all right. So for myself, I just the opening of this movie. It's exactly the game. It is the horror game. It is the live screen adaptation of the beginning of Silent Hill. It's very chilling. It accurately tells. As soon as she goes into the alley and you hear this kind of siren, and all of a sudden it's now bloody and rusty, and there's medical supplies and wheelchairs and the creepy little children, and it's just the start of the game, right? And I'm like, wow, they captured this perfectly, right? It's almost scene for shot, right? Like they move the camera, they pull the camera out, they kind of encapsulate you into this intro into the nightmare world. It's done expertly. Now, narratively in the movie, it doesn't quite make sense. Like, it works for a video game because they're like showing you mechanics, but in the movie, it doesn't quite make sense from a narrative point of view. And it's like kind of dumb to have in the start of your movie, especially just how the rest of it plays out. But the fact they like dialed it up and like shot for shot basically remade that's pretty cool. I think that stands up pretty well in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, Silent Hill has like just great visuals, and like I think that's why it stands out in the video game world. And when you can incorporate that into your movie, I think you're on success. And that's maybe why this movie has a bunch of a cult following, because some of the stuff that they do, it's like, this is awesome.
Yeah, no.
Other parts are maybe not as great.
Yeah, that's fair. From there, most notable scene or part of the movie, because obviously we're both like, that's the praise. Kind of looks like the game. If characters roughly follows what happens, maybe we have to do more, less. Anyways, most notable scene or part of this movie. Could it be when the girl yells, "Silent Hill"? Could it be the crash? Could it be the opening video game sequence? Could it be the Sean Bean part that were definitely filmed and inserted after production because they really don't matter? They just kind of kill the tension. They just drag you away, and they're like, oh, look, now Sean Bean's on his phone. Just sitting there pooping, playing his game. Cool. The cop fighting, the barf guy, the nightmare school, Pyramid Head, the hotel room with the little girl, meeting the cult, exploring the hospital, the protagonist actually studying the map and remembering lefts and rights. That's kind of cool. The creepy nurses, the background dump, the cop burning, the barbed wire massacre. Of those scenes, what was your most notable scene or part of this movie? And that's that part that it's been a while. It's been years. What do you remember about this movie?
To me, I would say atmosphere, but that's kind of a cop-out. I think the creepy nurse scene was a big standout. I guess I've seen this movie so many times, it's kind of like, I don't know, it all blends together. I mostly just remember the ash falling. But the creepy nurses scene always was a big fan favorite when I used to watch this movie as a kid. Everybody was like, yeah, that's the best scene. It's all right.
Yeah, it kind of works. Cool. For myself, I know I kind of almost was like, I kind of should have done the opening. I kind of feel like the beginning, and you're like, oh, it looks like the game is kind of definitely the most opening. Like, otherwise, I would say Pyramid Head, although he's not in the first game. So I don't know why he's in this movie, other than he's kind of like the series guy, right? He's their Jason or something, right?
He comes in the second one. So if this is ripped from the second one. But Sean Bean's also apparently named Harry Mason, and Harry Mason's the guy. Like they just
okay. But Harry Mason's from the first one. Yeah. Anyways, like I'd say Pyramid Head, like him ripping the girl. I'm like, oh, I remember that's like a big threat, and I was like, maybe he gets the cop and rips her in half or something. I kind of remember that. Yeah, I don't know. What about? I'd say the atmospheres, like the way they did the streets, the way they filmed the streets and like the mist and the fog. I think it's perfect. It's awesome. Looks just like the game. I'm going to say that is my most notable part too. And yeah, I feel like the nightmare sections are done fairly well to the point where you almost kind of forget they exist. Probably because your brain's like trying to be like, no, it's too scary. Can't do it. How about, what is your least favorite part of this movie?
The pacing.
Okay.
Yeah. So knowing that there's like a 3.5 hour cut of her just wandering around, it's like, oh man, to me this movie feels like it could be just dialed up just a bit of a notch, because I feel like because it's such a long, arduous slog and everybody talks in such like metaphors, it's kind of hard to follow. I feel like if we kind of ramped up the speed a little bit, this probably would have been a little bit more of a coherent experience, like a little bit more coherent of a story. Because I feel like that was the other thing that we came away with as like watching this in high school or whatever. It was, what the hell is this movie even about?
Yeah.
And then you end up spending just like all night just like talking about it. And I guess that's kind of the point of sometimes like 90s movies or like 2000s movies when we were watching them, like kind of be vague. So makes people wonder. But yeah, this was just like kind of painful. It's not vague. It's just painfully slow. And I can see where my ADD brain just like loses track.
Oh, and you just stop paying attention. Like, this is fucking dumb. And you like look away and you're like, okay, what? I remember they met a girl and like, she was throwing rocks at the old lady, and now they're in this like burnt down hotel room or something. What the fuck? You're like, I missed something. Like, what was going on? Because you just like stop paying attention because it is so boring. Yeah, the pacing is awful. The Sean Bean parts, just the fact that he's included and he's doing, adds nothing to the story. He's trying to do this side investigation because they need men because you can't have women in a video game movie, and I'm like, oh man, that just upsets me on different levels. It's silly, and it really kills attention. Like, there was a couple moments, I forget what it was. There was something that's scary. She's like creeping around and she thinks she sees Sharon, and then there's nothing, and it like cuts to Sean Bean and he's like driving in his car talking, and I'm like, well, no, I'm not scared anymore. Like, you built up all this tension and there's no reveal, and like the payoff is just like it takes actually the air out of the balloon of all the atmosphere you're trying to. So if you cut all those, instead of a 2 hour long movie, you could have a hour 40-minute movie. It probably runs a little faster and like keeps going. The pace is there and like it keeps your attention. But like Sean Bean just like actually kills it for me, regardless of whether I know why he's there or not, right? Like, oh, it's just bad.
That's totally fair and makes sense to me, because you're right. It's just like, my goodness gracious.
And then I'm like, oh, I don't care. I don't care what he's doing because he's not doing anything scary. Go back to the scary parts. Yeah. Give me something with like, oh, we're gonna learn about. Oh, I'm gonna tell you the whole story of Silent Hill. But wait, Sean Bean's in an orphanage. He's talking to a nun. How about a criticism? Final criticism about this movie before we have to say something nice. Myself, I said the overuse of CGI. And not in the sense you can't use CGI in your movie. Definitely you can. But it's like the abundance of it. Because there's a couple monsters, there's a couple parts that are practical effects. They look good. It looks scary, but it's like one monster on screen. And I'm like, oh, scary. But then they use CGI to make 50 of them. So instead of just 5 scary mummies, there's like 75. You're like, what? Like the nurse scene, yeah, kind of creepy, scary. But I can tell that not all of them are there. And there's a couple parts that there are actual like actors. And if you had like 15 actors or 10 actors in a room and you film them all moving creepily, that's way scarier than 75 of them all dancing together. So I'm like, well, that just seems too many. Like at the beginning, there's these scary little babies kind of chasing after her, and it like pans back and there's like 1,000 babies everywhere. And I'm like, but like at that point you're done. Like how do you get out of 1,000 babies? If there's 10, yeah, you could beat 10 little scary ghost babies, no problem, right? Like you at least have a chance, but it's just, and it's not the CGI looks bad. It's just like they use it for the abundance, and it kind of takes me out of some of those scenes, right? It's kind of like the barbed wire at the end. Like it's just a little bit too much, right? Like it could have been cleaner, and like the girl gets grabbed and gets pulled into a cross pose, and then they start like cutting her legs, and then you're like, oh, okay, they're gonna rip her apart. You're like, oh no. They gotta have the barbed wire up her dress. Oh, now it's coming out her chest. Oh, now it's also coming out her face while she's still screaming. Oh, now it's coming out her arm. Oh, now she's ripped in half. And I'm like, it was just like a little bit too long, right? So that's my complaint, is the use of CGI in this movie is like over the top. It's too surreal, and it takes me out of kind of the down to earth, scary, tangible world that they were making.
Yeah. No, and it's just leaves you kind of feeling like it's a bit of a wet balloon or something. It's not something you want. It's
no.
Like, for my criticism, this was the thing I was kind of mentioning at earlier, my little pro tip. So this movie, I was messing around because I was bored. I was messing around on the speed of how I could watch things, and I just cranked up the speed to like 2 times. This movie is oddly way more watchable at 2 times speed. Okay. And I was like, it feels like I'm just watching a Let's Play right now.
Fascinating. Cool. Okay. Interesting.
But it's actually kind of funny because it cuts out all the fluff or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's so like tight knit and jammed. I was like, wow, I actually kind of understand the story so much better now. and the long arduous scenes of her like creepily dancing or climbing up some stairs. It's like all of a sudden that just like zips by. You can just get straight to like the actual nitty gritty of the people meandering and talking way too long. So pro tip.
So maybe like
this movie is hard for you to watch. 2 times speed.
2 might be
Maybe
aggressive.
1.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 1 point. Maybe start with like 1.25 to 1.5 because like 1.5 you're probably like, oh yeah, this clip's long and I get it. And yeah, you probably would. Well, I mean, it would take the movie down from 2 hours to what hour half.
Probably 90 minutes. Yeah,
Something like that. Like that almost seems more doable. So yeah, cool. That's cool. Pro tip. How about a final praise before we stop talking about this film? So praise. This film has a lot of love and care put into it. It shows and is a fairly faithful telling of the video game. However, I don't think the film is a very good movie. It doesn't explain the story. There's plot holes. It doesn't work as a standalone piece of art. You'd be like, what the fuck happened? I have to watch like 2 videos to explain what happened. It's a stupid movie. I hate it. I would say play the game, even for an hour or two. Just the original one. Play the end of the school. You'd be like, okay, awesome, cool. I'm ready to move on. Watch a YouTube video maybe, or just listen to the podcast. Then watch the movie and you'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, I see what they're doing. Yeah, it looks kind of like the video game, feels like the video game. I don't know if I would have known what was going on if they didn't, because they don't really explain things. And that's how people want video games. So like, well, how come Chris and Claire and Leon weren't in the Resident Evil movie? I'm like, because people don't know who Chris and Claire and Leon are, right? You have to introduce your characters. You have to have them, give them motivations. You have to, like, there's things you have to do in a movie. And this movie just kind of is like, nope, we're just doing the video game stuff. They're just showing you. They're like, here we go. Here's Lisa watching over Alessa. You're like, okay, cool.
Yeah. No, it's it leaves you kind of like feeling bittersweet. Like it's just not enough substance to this. And like I guess kind of like going back to my criticism or whatever, it's like anytime you kind of you get more out of a movie by watching it faster, something's gone wrong.
Yeah, okay.
So...
Oh, you have to say something nice, though.
I do. I'm going to.
Okay.
I think visually this movie's excellent. But if they wanted to meander, I think that there's a better format for that. This would have been much better in like a 1-season kind of thing, because then they could have fucked around and spent a lot of time doing whatever, and I don't expect that because it's kind of like, you know. But this, I feel like trying to do, like they had a huge story that they wanted to do, and to fill out all this backstory and tell about Silent Hill and how did these people, like they explain effing everything. And like here's a cutaway for that.
But
here's
like it's also different.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, like they're doing their own thing.
Yeah,
like,
well,
that's fine.
And I guess
but
that's the part we have to say. Like they were faithful to the story, but also the video game. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's completely different from this thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like visually, I think it's really good. If they wanted to kind of do this own thing, like this could have worked almost really well in like I said earlier, mini series. Just like take a little more time with it.
Sure.
Then you can, maybe have a whole like instead of
cool, great,
quick, like little like video run story. It's like you could spend time and actually like show us it instead of just telling us everything. So.
Sure. And now that is also a result of like the climate. You're looking at it with 2024 eyes. Miniseries, Netflix, Prime is a thing. Back in the day, it was you had to do a 22 episode series for television for one of the big networks, or you could do a movie. There was no miniseries, right? Like maybe you could talk HBO into it, but at that point, even in 2006, they would have been like, I don't know, it seems kind of stupid. A show about like ghosts and stuff, and there's girls in it. So, I mean, yes, you're right. Would it work better as
imagine a world where HBO decides to do Silent Hill instead of Game of Thrones?
Well, even just as a mini side series, right? Like think of how well they did with I love the Watchmen, right? That they did. So I mean, you just add something kind of similar to that, right? It probably gives you a similar effect. So from there though, and that's it. Anything else you want to say about the show or the movie?
No.
I guess we should say it's different. In the movie, it turns out these cultists. Should we explain the ending?
Sure.
So the ending of Silent Hill, as far as I understand, is this cult-ish. These people that were settled in this mining town were witch hunters by trade, and they found this little girl who seemed to have some type of magical powers and persecuted her as a witch. They sacrificed her to try and burn the evil out, but as a result, it started a giant fire in a hotel room. They were hurt. Potentially, it started. She used her like psychic powers to light the whole town on fire, to kill everyone, to kind of bring them into capture. Her body was then sent to the hospital, where she was kind of recovered, tried to bring back to life. She fractured herself into two beings, a good part, which was like the little girl, Sharon, and the bad little girl, Alessa. And when they came back to her, they gave her powers and she could fight back. I think that's what happens. But in the games, there's something about they're trying to summon a god.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my take on this story, because I have a little bit of a different what I took from it.
Okay, so that's what I think happened. Tyson, what do you think happened?
Okay, so I think everything you're saying was pretty correct, but I think because she had an innocent soul or something, like she had magical powers, yes, but she was innocent. She wasn't a witch, so them burning her ended up kind of like causing a really bad, like a curse incident to kind of happen, thus like burning the city down. But some people came to rescue Alessa, some apparently good people, and they ended up trying to like heal her and because she was essentially burnt alive. Like they had like, and watching that quick little scene, she's like this little charcoal thing being tossed around.
Oh yeah, no, I went back and watched a couple times, and I was like, well, that's a horrifying. They burnt the little girl till she's just like charcoaly, but also yelling. Cool.
Yeah, and it's like, so essentially, it's like a Final Destination moment. Thing breaks, everybody gets like set on, like the whole thing kind of gets set on fire, and like ignites a big fire into the middle of the town, like a coal thing. Then everything starts burning. But so these people end up trying to heal her, and so while she's
I think it's two
suffering,
fires. I think it's two fires. I think what happens is the first fire, she's like in the hotel. They rescue her. They take her to the hospital. She's being healed by Lisa. Yeah. And then while she's being healed, the pain and her loneliness becomes to anger and hate, and she like does an explosion one day, which sets the whole town on fire. And that's when her soul gets divided.
I think that's not. I think what I took was like when she's in the hospital, Alessa comes to her because essentially they opened a portal to hell. So the little demon version Alessa, because that's not, she's not a little girl, obviously. She just like, I think just takes the form of her and just like, no, I'll like, you obviously have magical powers. I'll just let me corrupt you. And I'll like essentially causes the entire town and to be cursed into this like dark limbo hell-ish version of itself. So that's what I took from it. It's like her personality doesn't split. It's like this, there's Alessa, but it's like this little demon monster that wants to feast off of her thing. That's why she
but I think it's all about her psyche, right? So her being in the hospital and bandages on like life support is purgatory. So that's the Alessa that exists in the foggy Silent Hill purgatory realm. Hell is the evil little girl, right? So that's like the nightmare version. That's all the bad parts. That's where all the hate and the evil kind of exists. And then the good part is the little girl Sharon, who was sent to live with like Rose and Sean Bean, right, in the real world, and she's kind of like the good version. So like the good purgatory and like evil realms that exist now because of Alessa's fractured mind from existing in the hospispital, and it's her trying to like get revenge. But maybe that's also because I think that's like the plot of the games. So I'm like trying to infer it onto like, and I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense. And there's like three versions. There's like the true version in the purgatory that can't die, that's kind of suffering in like the Silent Hill, the foggy version. And then there's like the nightmare version that she can create and has like the psychic abilities, but in like the good version too.
Yeah, I think in my version, it's more just like a rift kind of between those three realms just kind of got opened, and Silent Hill is now like this. Depending on what Silent Hill deems it wants to be, it can either flip between this hellish version or it can flip between purgatory. I don't think it ever will go back to the reality. I think outside of Silent Hill is reality. But once you've been in Silent Hill and you've gone to hell, like you're essentially, your soul's been banished, so you're just dead. So like if you went Silent Hill and then you left before like it went to hell, you would still be able to escape. But I feel like if you were in Silent Hill, when the time switches, essentially it's like you're doomed. You're locked now. You're doomed. But I could be. I know so little about Silent Hill.
Yeah, but
that's
like
just what I took from it.
Yeah, it's the thing. Like you could escape, like Harry Mason and Sybil, the cop, escape at the end of the game, but only through the power of the deity that is resurrected, and they like push you through the portal back to the real world.
Yeah.
So like I'm now, are you buying it? That was kind of my fan theories. There's 3 little girls now. I think that the evil little girl goes with the good little girl or something. Like,
oh, for sure.
Because she comes up at the end and she's like, don't look. And the little evil girl comes up and looks at her in the eyes, and all of a sudden it's like morning. And they drive away and they go home, but it's all foggy. And I'm like, but the evil girl's in the little girl's body. Like, why isn't she like going back to the real world? Because she's the evil one.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just because she's just possessed now, and she just wants to take over that little girl's body eventually.
Sure.
Like, she just possessed her. Now they're just wandering the limbo version of Earth. So it's like, won't be able to interact with anyone, but like maybe once she dies or whatever.
You know what?
It
kind of sounds like we have some questions. Maybe we should watch the sequel and see if they like kind of clear things up to tell us how the story goes. I'm sure it doesn't destroy the whole mythology that this like movie created.
Oh, I bet you it's going to be a wonderful sequel that bursts a beautiful franchise that we all still worship and cherish to this day.
So excited. Very excited to see what happens. All right, cool. So with that, we'll leave it. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll talk about Silent Hill 2 Revelations. So pretty excited to see Kit Harington.
Oh, yeah. He's in that movie, isn't he?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Just think Game of Thrones. You could have had Kit Haring and Silent Hill instead of Jon Snow. Idiots.
They literally had like the cast. Like they just had to like connect a few more dots. Oh man, we could have had Silent Hill Game of Thrones version.
Ugh, seems like a real loss, real shame, real shame.
Oh well, just think it could have saved us from that final season. It might have.
But we'll see. We'll see how good the next second movie is before we're like, Game of Thrones shouldn't have existed because of this delight. Wayback Machine. So what did the world look like? Pop cultural world look like, at least when this movie came out. So, top TV shows that were released 2006 were Friday Night Lights, Heroes, Dexter, Brothers and Sisters, and Ugly Betty.
Oh, I know what you're doing, Mick. You're sitting around watching Heroes.
I'm just like, man, I love this so much. I hope it doesn't disappoint me. God damn it. Top cartoons releases here were Curious George, Metalocalypse, Mickey Mouse Club, Assy McGee, The Emperor's New School, and Biker Mice from Mars.
Oh. Biker Mice, this must be a remake.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they kept trying to revive this franchise.
Yeah, it was like 2006 something. I was like, I'll just leave that because then Tyson would be like, what? Top movies. So The Sentinel also opened up against this movie. It made $98 million. Still in theaters, you could watch The Wild, Scary Movie 4, The Benchwarmers, and Ice Age 4, The Meltdown, which made $780 million.
Who would have figured out those Ice Age movies?
Apparently they're like $1 billion franchise that Disney owns and is just doing nothing with. Like they're part of the Fox studio and they just shut it down. They're like, no more Ice Age.
How dare you?
Disney just has this $1 billion IP sitting on the side and came with the Fox studios, and they're like, nope, no thanks. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. And like they're a successful company. God damn it. Like what is life? All right. And if we waited a week or two, you could see RV and Cars, which made $775 million.
And now is sitting on the shelf doing nothing.
Disney, you're kicking ass, buddy. You're kicking ass. Do you own Silent Hill now? Who owns Silent Hill? I don't know. I forget.
Probably Konami, but they're like, no, we need to hold on to this for pachinko machines.
Sure. Okay. And then top video games released this month were Russia with Love on the PSP, Battlefield 2, Modern Combat, Tomb Raider Legend, Final Fantasy 11, and Mother 3 in Japan.
Wait, is this one of the online ones for Final Fantasy?
Yes.
Oh,
the first one. The first
one.
Yeah.
First one. Okay, so we're right in like MMOs craze. Tomb Raider's getting the remake. From Russia with Love.
Yep.
Excellent. I think this is the one where Sean Connery actually voiced him.
Oh yeah, sure.
Which
Okay.
was a little weird to hear like the Sean Connery voice come out of a younger older
Yeah,
Sean
yeah.
Connery coming out of a
Oh,
younger one. It's like,
talk like this is how young. Oh, I'm doing something old man. This isn't even what Sean Connery sounds like, so I don't know what I'm doing. Cool. Yeah, all right. So that's what the world looks like. Neat.
good times.
All
Good
right.
times.
Then all I got is a cultural significance, and we'll get out of here. Short and sweet. I mean, I guess we have 3 shows this month, so in theory we should keep them shorter and sweeter. Cultural significance. In this section, we talk about this. We look at movie design. No. Lore inspirations. No. Turning points, maybe. Interesting stories. Well, we talk about how this game relates, give other examples, and tie it all back together in the end. Except it's a movie, so it's not. How about an over-under horror video game franchise edition? How many sold? So...
Okay.
So
I'm down.
I went through a bunch and I was like, oh man, this will be fun. And then there just wasn't that many horror franchise games that were on top of the list. So kind of got sad and I didn't want to do more research. And I was doing this last night at like 10 o'clock before I went to bed. So this is what you're getting. We've got we got 5 options. Tyson's playing over under. I'm going to have number sold units per whole franchise, and Tyson gets to talk quickly about these horror franchises. So we'll start with Resident Evil. The over-under of 155 million copies sold in total over the franchise. Tyson, what do you think?
You know, that's a high number. High number. You know, you might be trying to mess with me with how high that number is, but there's been a lot of games and franchises. Like, that is a well-marketed cash cow. You know, I'm feeling zesty. This will set the stage. I'm going to go with the over.
Ding, ding, ding! 160 million copies sold in the franchise, so it's pretty good.
Damn, that is a number. Now let's hear this next drop off.
Yeah, so then I was going through and I was like, yeah, this is great. And I scrolled and I scrolled and I scrolled. And I got to the next series that popped up, The Last of Us. Over under 29 million copies sold.
Jeez, it's almost like this. Yeah, that's just sad. That's sad. That's what the hell of a drop off. Last of Us. Okay, so we got Last of Us, Last of Us 2, Last of Us Remake.
There's like one on the PSP. Don't forget that one.
Okay, so I'm sure that's another million. So if we do 8, 8, and 8, that gets me to 24. You know what? I'm going to take the under on this one. I just don't think that there's been that many to push it over there. So let's take the under.
And the correct answer is over. It was at 30 million copies sold in total.
Oh, diggity damn.
Yeah. I got Dickie on the last ones. I think they're within one. How about the Walking Dead series? So that's the next one. So Walking Game franchise. I'm guessing that's the Telltale Games. 27 million over under.
No, it's got to be under. Like, a Telltale went bankrupt. If they sold more than 29 million units, they would have to been burning a pile of cash. Can't be that misled. Telltale, don't fail me. I'm taking the under.
And correct answer is 28 million.
Jesus. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, I got to run the gamut just to come out even here.
Yep.
Let's
Okay. All right. So one of the OGs, when I think Halloween, when I think video games, when I think horror, I always go to Castlevania. It's one of my favorites, one of my absolute, just love them. They've been around for so long. Over under 21 million copies sold.
You know, this is the one that you would fuck with my head on, because Castlevania has a bunch of games.
Yep.
They probably sold reasonably well. And this can't be like lower than 3 franchise, or like the Walking Dead has like what, 1 game franchise, just maybe 5 game releases. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna take I went under. You know what? I'm gonna take the under.
And the correct answer is, oh, you went under. Oh no, that's right. Ding, 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 ding. 20 million.
Hey, okay, there we go.
Yep.
I knew, like, but that's tragic that Castlevania only sold 20 million units.
Two-thirds of the Last of Us.
Like, how many times have I bought in Symphony of the Night? How is that number not higher?
That's what I mean. Like, how many? I have a copy on my PlayStation. I have one on my PS4. It came out when I was like sick. I'd buy it. I have it on my PS3. I have it on my PS Vita. I've got some on my shelf. Yeah. I don't understand
I
it.
literally have a bunch of them like digitally.
Yep.
So maybe this is just physical releases.
Could be physical sales. Yeah, maybe from retail. Still, I don't know. And then last but not least, I was like, oh, Silent Hill's got to be up there. People love Silent Hill. Resident Evil's got 160 million. That's when I was back. Everyone else was like, no, Silent Hill's better. It's creepier. It's scarier. Over under 8.5 million.
Wow, that is a pitiful number.
Yeah.
But depending on when it came out, like this is mostly a PlayStation 2 franchise. They're essentially, it was dead by the PS3. So we're dealing with a really small time window. Konami, heartless, bad company. You know what? I've taken the under 3 times in a row. I'm taking it a fourth. I'm taking the under on this one.
Oh, you almost did. It was over. Bam. 9.
Son of a...
So 2 for
Okay.
2 for 5. 2 for 5. Tyson did not do well in this one. See if you can redeem it though on the next show, because we're probably doing another similar type game, something. I don't know exactly what we're doing, but like I said, we're back.
Let's see if I can pull it back to 500, everybody.
Yeah, I think we got this. So with that, yeah. That's good. That's a game. That's a movie. We're doing another movie and a game this month, so it's kind of fun. I'm excited for it. I'm hoping you're excited for it. Good times.
Yeah, it's good times. I am enjoying always dipping my toe into new franchises. First time kind of really watch the movies, time to play the games, and talk about it. So
Awesome.
I'm enjoying it so far, and I'm looking forward to another great spooky, scary month.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. Sweet. So with that, we'll see you guys in a couple weeks to watch the next movie. And if you ever listened and follow along, or you caught us somewhere, it's time to play the game. We can play the game for Halloween. We can talk about it together. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, if you got a special Halloween thing, let us know. Maybe we'll try to incorporate that into our binge watching or something.
Oh, yeah,
I
that
always
works
take
too.
movie
Yeah.
recommendations.
Sure. Awesome. Cool. So that we'll say bye and see you guys in a couple weeks.
See you.
Bye.